I rate the third and final entry in this Jack Staff miniseries from Bat Rabies and Cletus Cassaday. It is easy to mistake one's enthusiasm for this story being because Cletus Cassaday's artwork is so wonderful, but I do think the writing, the story itself, had another artist drawn this, someone less good, or maybe even someone bad, I think the story would still be enough to enjoy what we have here. We have to begin with some depressing facts. There is no recap page. I find the prospect of a 3-issue miniseries having recap pages for the first 2 issues and then the final issue breaking the trend painful. We ended part 2 with the same cliffhanger as Captain America 253, a Barry Blood about to suck off the title star, and this page here continues the blatant nostalgia. This is almost a direct recreation of the opening splash page to Captain America 254. Captain America 254 is a really good issue, but it has the one bit I find insulting. We had this amazing cliffhanger ending of the issue before, and then 254 resolves it in a way where there was never any danger. So right here, we have a chance to improve upon that. So what we do is, we don't. It repeats the same thing. Jack Staff's costume prevented Barry Blood from being able to suck him off. As rich and fulfilling now as it was in 1981. I can only praise the art so much. I already am aware I have reused so many words in description of it. Amazing, excellent, beautiful. And I have even praised specifically the colours each issue. I feel the colours in this one, they are a bit more complicated than they were in issues 1 and 2. The shadows in particular feel incredibly heavy, and that is appropriate in scenes like this, and they are used well. One thing to observe is there is almost an image per page where you can single it out. Him on his motor bicycle here, or the panel up top here. Images you can single out, crop down, do anything to, and they are just objectively great bits of art. Not only are we looking at a story being told, but there are individual images that carry such strong quality they can be singled out, stripped of context, and still be positively brilliant pictures. I have kept you waiting long enough. Here is Jack Staff's mini-mate. How is this for random? He came with Safari Jacket Wonder Man. Here he is unmasked with an earpiece that I think resembles how he appears in this series. He did come with a knife and a revolver. And the revolver itself is quite unique to Jack Staff. I spent fucking ages fishing that out of my accessory bag. He came with holsters for both, but in the case of the knife holster, I couldn't find it, but you can see there where it ports into. Oh look, he has found the Holy Grail. Good for him. Jack Staff is pursuing Barry Blood, and here he is fighting some Draculas. And I thought I could talk a bit about Jack Staff. I have always been a bit baffled that this character wasn't a little bit bigger than he is. He has a nice, sleek design. He has decent lore attached to him. The majority of his most well-known stories are all very, very decent. I think the two things people wrongly conclude about him is that he is redundant when you have Captain Britain, another major British superhero wearing a flag-based costume. That is so wrong. They are different characters entirely. They are worlds apart. With the exception of in Knights of Penzance when they made Jack Staff into a shoddy Captain Britain clone, Jack Staff is completely unique. Comparing Jack Staff and Captain Britain is like comparing Captain America and Captain and Tennille. With Jack Staff and Captain Britain, other than the flag motif, their stories and their mythology are not the same. The other thing I perceive as maybe not helping Jack Staff is, in the age of no imagination, it is plain to see that certain writers and editors cannot perceive this character as having any stories to tell that don't involve Draculas or him killing Draculas. Oh, here's an idea. Fuck, they'll have done this. Their great new idea for Jack Staff, I bet they make him into a Dracula. I bet that's the next Jack Staff miniseries they do. Jack Staff becomes a Dracula. Whenever I suggest stuff like that, I'm always a bit hesitant because there's a good chance they have already done that. I've not looked it up. If they have, they're just so fucking predictable. After this, though, is next miniseries, which came out in 2006 or 2007. That is a rare offering where there are no Draculas. He is involved in battling an international supervillain conspiracy, which to me suggests a very obvious type of story that can be done with Jack Staff. The Silver Age style sci-fi action adventure espionage, the Jim Strunky sort of thing. Jack Staff could do stuff like that. And then he could fight Draculas. And then he could fight neo-Nazis. And then he could do something else. And then, probably, he would become a Dracula because I have no fucking ideas. There is definitely more than Draculas and Captain Britain clone to Jack Staff. Baroness Legs, she has got the new Barry Blood completely under her spell. Kenneth is her plaything. And off panel, Baroness Legs debatably moondragons them. But I think it isn't a moondragoning because I don't think he is being controlled by her too much to do so. They go off to have sex here. And we saw him a bit zonked out, but when you take into account Kenneth's backstory and how becoming a Dracula has freed him from his afflictions and weakness, I think a celebratory shag would be on his calendar. And Baroness Legs did bring about the change. He would be up for it, even though she did appear to be controlling him on the previous page. Over here, Jack Staff recreates the cover to Black Flag's Damaged. And the next set of pages are where I really started to notice the shadows. Before they were being used for atmosphere, but here they are cleverly being used for mood. They represent Jack Staff's defeatism. While I'm here, this woman, I got this cutaway for yesterday and I didn't use it. I didn't set up to use it. So yeah, this is what she originally looked like in Excalibur. And yeah, she is on model in this. I think both artists draw her being at least attractive, but most of her art is going to pale next to Cletus Cassaday. I did feel awful when he died. The only comic of his I had reviewed was an Excellent Men one that I ripped up. I have read this story a bunch of times. I've had it close to 15 years. Over time you forget things, or you maybe convince yourself of other things. One thing, for example, I was under the impression it was this miniseries where Jack Staff and Kenneth swapped hair colours, which it isn't. Their hair colours match the original story somewhat. Jack Staff's is more blonde than it was, but yeah, it's sort of the same hair colours. The other thing is I remember Firespit not really factoring into this much, and I was actually surprised. She does get a bit involved with the finale. Here is what I think happens. I remembered Firespit is in it, and in those first two parts she is a bit detached from the action and the plot. But you might remember when I reviewed the Knights of Penzance two-parter with Barry Blood, in that Firespit was absolutely misused. She was the stay-at-home girlfriend worried about Jack Staff fighting Barry Blood, even though she had her powers back at that point. There is also Immortalist, another 90s story I love, which features Firespit and Dracula's, and I think I crunched down all the points from these three things into one memory of a story. By the way, there are two things that I don't know. Pretty sure they happen off panel. First is, when does Jack Staff start dating Firespit? They are definitely an item come New Invaders, but they are not together in this. But they seemed together in Knights of Penzance. And the second is, when does Firespit become a Dracula? And that one, I believe, is a bit confused by bad editing, misinterpreting New Invaders. She is technically bitten in that, but she was shown not to be transforming. They were just draining her blood. There is 4 issues after that where she is back to normal. Then come Captain Britain and MI13. She is just a Dracula. They describe her on the flippin' recap pages as a Dracula turned heroine, which is not the character, nor has it ever been. She was a heroine before she was a Dracula, and I am a world before I am a man. I hate that there are important character things happening off panel between stories with Jack Staff and Firespit. They broke up off panel too. Between comics, they broke up. I am not too sure how much of this ending I will show. I don't want to spoil it because I want you all to read it. But I do need to spoil it since we are going to look at a fucking sequel next. Here, Firespit, she gets her moment. She has been playing the part of wealthy socialite for most of this series. beautiful rich woman, and the action comes across into one of her things. And so we do get to see her use her powers and save people. And she sadly doesn't get to confront her undead son. And really, this story utterly lacks in not showing Firespit's response to that. At this point, I don't think she is even aware of what has happened to Kenneth. New Invaders does more than enough to make up for that. Her dealing with her son's death and legacy is featured throughout. We have had this supervillain plot concerning the Holy Grail. I haven't talked about that too much. It is a MacGuffin. That's all it is, a MacGuffin. Arguably, it is the original MacGuffin. Baroness Legs drinks from it, and this will allow her to survive daylight. But she has no intention of sharing this with any of her followers who helped her gain it. They all, including Kenneth, perish as the sun comes up. Kenneth dies, crumbles to dust, and it is played quite touchingly. I said in the last part, Kenneth's plight is very... As much as we are meant to think of him as a villain for becoming Barry Blood, and we did see him murder someone off panel last issue, how he got to this place, I think most readers would sympathise with him, or at least feel some pity. Majestic artwork. I am glad I found a new word I haven't used in relation to this artist yet. Baroness is pregnant. She always wanted to continue on the Barry Blood legacy, but it was not with Kenneth. Kenneth was a stopgap. He was a means to an end. She was using him. She needed him to impregnate her with a new, true heir to the Barry Blood lineage. And then the final page, Grieving Heroes. Don't get enough of Firespit, really. Sorry. It is a great series, but she needed more characterisation at this point. Just go and read it. It is a very good miniseries. 7 thumbs up.